Let's talk about a time when the entire world was basically holding its breath. We're going to dive into the nuclear arms race, a period of intense competition, some really incredible technology, and a threat that changed humanity forever. So, how did we get here? Well, it all kicked off with the creation of a weapon more powerful than anything the world had ever seen. And I mean, this wasn't just a bigger bomb, it was a completely new kind of explosive force. You see, after the first atomic bombs were made, the race was immediately on to build something even bigger. And that something was the hydrogen bomb, also known as the H-bomb. The goal? To unlock an even greater source of energy. So what's the big difference here? Well, it's all in the science. The first atomic bombs worked by splitting atoms apart, which is called fission. But H-bombs did the exact opposite. They slammed hydrogen atoms together, which we call fusion. And get this, fusion is the same process that powers the sun. So for a split second, they were literally creating a mini sun on Earth. The amount of energy released was just almost unbelievable. The power of these new bombs was so huge, we actually needed a whole new way to measure it. And that's where the megaton comes in. Just 1 megaton is equal to the explosive force of 1 million tons of TNT. To put that kind of power into perspective, a single hydrogen bomb could flatten just about any building for miles and miles in every direction. We're talking about a level of destruction that was pretty much unimaginable before this. Okay, so you've built the most powerful weapon in history. Great. But how do you get it where it needs to go? And more importantly, how do you get it there fast? Using bomber planes just wasn't going to cut it anymore. They were too slow and too easy to shoot down. And the solution was the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, or ICBM for short. The name pretty much tells you everything you need to know. It's a massive, rocket-powered missile that can travel between continents. So how does one of these things even work? Well, it's basically a 3-part journey. First, it launches straight up, like a space rocket. Then it flies out of the atmosphere into the vacuum of space, where there's no air to slow it down. It travels at incredible speeds before, bam, it re-enters the atmosphere right over its target. And this right here, this is the number that changed global security forever. That entire journey from a launch pad on one continent to a target on another could take less than 30 minutes. There was almost no time to react. Imagine living in a world where a city-destroying weapon could arrive at your doorstep in less time than it takes to watch a TV show. With weapons that could strike in minutes, the world entered this new, incredibly tense era where everyone was on high alert all the time. All this tension led to a really strange kind of stability. It was a military theory called mutually assured destruction, or MAD for short. And the idea was simple but also completely terrifying. If both sides knew that starting a war would mean their own total destruction, then neither side would ever be crazy enough to start one. Now, the whole idea of MAD only works if you can promise one thing: a second strike. That means even if you get hit first by a surprise attack, you absolutely have to have enough weapons left to launch your own devastating counterattack. And to do that, you had to spread your weapons all over the place, on land, at sea, and in the air. On land, ICBMs were kept safe inside these massive underground silos. I'm talking deep tubes of reinforced concrete and super thick steel, with huge blast doors on top. They were designed to survive a nearby nuclear explosion, so the missile inside could still launch. But if you really wanted to guarantee that second strike, the ultimate weapon was the nuclear submarine. These things were basically silent hunters. They were powered by their own nuclear reactors so they could stay hidden deep underwater for months. They were almost impossible to find, which made them the perfect platform for a surprise counterattack. So you've got these giant radar systems scanning the skies 24/7, looking for an enemy missile launch. But here's the really crazy part. Even with all that technology, they would only give world leaders about 15 to 30 minutes to figure out if the threat was real and then decide what to do about it, a decision that could literally determine the fate of the entire world. As the two superpowers built tens of thousands of these weapons, a really chilling realization started to set in for everybody. They had created an incredibly dangerous situation. Leaders on both sides knew they had to find a way to lower the risk of a global catastrophe. And, stepping back from that cliff didn't happen overnight. As you can see here, it was a slow process that took decades. People started getting really worried about radioactive fallout from all the weapons testing, and the sheer number of bombs was just terrifying. Eventually, that pushed leaders towards diplomacy, and finally to arms control treaties that would limit and even start to dismantle some of these weapons. So what did we get out of all this? Well, the legacy of this era is complicated. The exact same powerful rocket technology that was designed for ICBMs was also used to send astronauts to the moon. And the super precise guidance systems needed to hit a target on another continent, they were the direct ancestors of the satellite tech that gives us GPS today. But it's really important to remember that the threat hasn't completely gone away. Thousands of nuclear warheads still exist. They're kept in these high-tech storage facilities and monitored very, very carefully. It's a powerful reminder that while the intense race might be over, the world still has to be incredibly careful with the technology it created. It's just wild to think about, right? This terrifying global race also pushed technology forward in ways that nobody expected, giving us things we use every single day. It kind of makes you wonder, what will the great challenges of our time inspire?